No, one of the problems you mentioned about the journalists. As a working journalist, it's often very difficult to get an objective view into the newspapers. And that's been one of the very serious problems, is proprietorial interference. In the West, it's proprietorial interference. You know, in Moscow, then
right, it ends up being the same
decisions
problem. It's the same. The end result is the same problem everywhere, and that's important for people to understand. That because a lot of people complain about state-owned media, right? Some of us come from places where there is state-funded media, and in many of those examples, it's actually often as good or better quality than privately funded media. But it's the same concept, right? Whether it's corporate funded media or it's state funded media, how does the viewer, listener, reader distinguish what the truth is? So part of the problem we've got today is if you were drinking water out of your tap and you knew it were dirty, it smelled bad, or it looked discolored, or you heard on your news that you shouldn't drink the water, you wouldn't simply keep drinking it, right? You'd do something. You'd get bottled water, you'd use a filter, you'd do something. But with the news, it's kind of like that. It's not the way the news used to be. You can't simply trust that the news is going to be as reliable and honest as it was. So what methodology, what's the equivalent of the water filter that you use for your news? Because people my age or older don't know that you had to apply a filter, right? If you lived in the United States, you had 3 networks, and in all, the networks largely gave you the same thing. They were, generally speaking, trustworthy. Walter Cronkite might have been the most trusted man in America, but in fact, generally speaking, it wasn't like if you were watching ABC or you were watching NBC, you were getting some weird, warped view of the world. It was a narrower view of the world than we get today through our much more diverse media, but it was still trustworthy, generally. Now, our kids don't have that experience, and young people don't have that experience. They can curate their own news because of the fact that they can pick and choose where they get it from, because it's not programmed like network news, because it's not one newscast a day. But then, what do you do? How do you deal with 2 issues? One is dishonesty or disingenuous news, and the other one is the ability to understand other positions on a discussion. If you are simply curating the things you like, if you're on TikTok or you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook, and it's because whether you chose it or its algorithms have figured you out, you will be absent the things that are necessary. And I find the same problem when I travel around the world, whether it is in the Middle East or it is in Ukraine. People have learned how to curate just what they want.